Hello,
Hello.
and welcome to Body Quirks. And today we're going to do Shake Away the Winter Blues. My name is Julie Fast, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself before I get started. I am the author of Loving Someone with Bipolar Disorder, Take Charge of Bipolar Disorder, and Get It Done When You're Depressed. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was 31 years old, but my symptoms actually started when I was 16. My first symptoms were of psychosis. And then when I was 17, I experienced my first manic episode. And then when I was 19, I had my first suicidal depression. And from that time on, I'm now in my 50s, I've lived with mental health symptoms for all of my adult life. Later, my diagnosis of bipolar disorder was changed to schizoaffective disorder because I have bipolar disorder, which means I live with depression and mania, but I also have a separate psychotic disorder. So schizo means psychotic, affective means disorder. So schizoaffective, I have bipolar and psychosis. It is not fun. And so naturally, I am very influenced by the weather. We know now that seasons affect the mood. And so today we're going to talk about why that happens. And it's very exciting because something happened in the last couple of weeks that's made a very big difference in the way we look at seasonal affective disorder. The Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine was given to 3 researchers for their work on circadian rhythm of the body. And the truth is, seasonal affective disorder is a circadian rhythm problem. The circadian rhythm is the 24-hour clock that our body naturally lives with, and it deals with hormone regulation in the body. That's why so many people have trouble if they have to work the night shift. Think about it. You work during the day, but if you're put on the night shift and then you have to go back to day, you have almost jet lag, for example. That's the circadian rhythm going through the body and giving you trouble. Seasonal affective disorder, we can learn about seasonal affective disorder by talking about this element of our body. So what is seasonal affective disorder? First of all, it simply means seasonal changes affecting the mood. Affect means mood. In fact, in the United Kingdom, they call bipolar disorder bipolar affective disorder. So seasonal affective disorder means when the seasons change, the mood changes. And those of us who live in Portland, Oregon know that this is real, because we sometimes wake up in the dark and we will have darkness around 4 in the afternoon during our dark months. And it can get to you. And what are the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder? The symptoms are energy changes, sleep changes, being more hungry, not wanting to exercise, and feeling lethargic. But here's what's interesting. Usually there is a time period that this happens. So for most people, seasonal affective disorder hits them the hardest in the early to middle afternoon. And we're going to talk about why that happens. Seasonal affective disorder is very, very easy to treat. And that is something, if you understand what's happening with it, you can do something about it. So, what's a circadian rhythm? The circadian rhythm is based off a clock that going to bed and waking up at the same time means that our bodies can create hormones to regulate the mood more naturally. The 2 hormones we talk about in seasonal affective disorder are melatonin and serotonin. Have you guys heard of those? Mm-hmm. So melatonin is our sleep hormone. Serotonin is the main thing you hear about when somebody is talking about depression, because with the creation of the SSRI drugs in the 90s, selective serotonin inhibitor uptake drugs, those drugs affect serotonin and they help with depression. So when you have seasonal affective disorder, you are seeing an imbalance between melatonin and serotonin. Okay. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the body naturally, because of circadian rhythm, says, I think I'm going to start producing melatonin, because we're going to start moving down the energy of people, and let's have them be a little bit quieter so that they can be in bed around 11 o'clock at night. Okay? That's a natural thing. It doesn't hit you like a sledgehammer. But you go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because most people are tired later at night. By 11 or 12 at night, most people are tired. Of course, there are night owls and they're different, but the majority of people are tired by midnight if they've gone through a long day. Melatonin, then, is your sleep hormone. When you start to wake up in the morning, serotonin rises. So as melatonin goes up in the afternoon, your serotonin goes down. And in the morning, as your melatonin is going down, your serotonin goes up. That wakes you up, that perks up your mood. We know that serotonin affects depression. Now, of course, there's a lot more stuff going on than this, but for the purpose of our talk today, that's all we need to know. How do we affect melatonin and serotonin production in order to manage seasonal affective disorder is one of our questions to ask. What happens with seasonal affective disorder is that the weather outside tricks the body to produce too much melatonin. So instead of having a natural hit that starts around 4 o'clock, it sees the darkness and says, oh, it's around 8 o'clock, and I'm going to boost that melatonin. And so your body starts to naturally start to shut down, you get more lethargic, and you get sleepy. So right there, the weather is tricking you into thinking it's nighttime and I'm going to produce more melatonin. Another thing, and I know that research has not come out about this yet, but I believe this with all of my heart, and that's about barometric pressure. One thing, if you look at what it's like outside in the areas where there's lots of seasonal affective disorder, it feels like the cloud level is very low. And so on the dark days, like here in Portland, Oregon, or the kind that you get in Alaska or in the Scandinavian countries, Seattle, etc., the weather is not only dark, it's heavy. Because sometimes you can have a little bit of darkness at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, but it's got a sunbreak going through. That's not going to create seasonal affective disorder. It's just not going to, because there's not this low level. And I remember talking to my father and saying to him, I think it's barometric pressure. And he goes, you don't know what you're talking about. Physics doesn't allow stuff. And I said, Dad, I feel myself like the world is caving in on me in the afternoon when it's dark. Guess what? Last couple of years, new research out about the effects of barometric pressure on the mood. So I think now we just are getting more stories through the internet and more ways to talk with people about all of this. So more people are saying, I feel it physically as well as emotionally. And that's very important. So as that melatonin is going down and you're getting more tired, what do you naturally want to do? At 4 or 5 in the afternoon, you're not done with your day. So you're going to go look for sugar and caffeine because you're down and your mood is there. And not everybody has the ability, because we have such a 9 to 5 system for most people. Most people don't have the ability at 4 o'clock to stop and take the break that's needed in order to stop the production of that melatonin and keep your serotonin going. So one thing that's very important is learning what time of day affects you the most in terms of seasonal affective disorder. So if you're keeping a journal about this and you're noticing November's coming, I'm about to hit the dark days, I don't want to be so tired this time, look and see when you actually feel the slump and write it down. That becomes the time that you're going to do the majority of the things we talk about today. Because even if you're at work, there are a lot of things you can do. And on your days off, that's going to be your time frame where you really, really pump up anything that you do to deal with your mood. Most people talk about doing things in the morning or after work. I say, nope. Your number one thing to do is do it in the time period when the slump is going to happen. Mine is 4 to 6. I've known it my whole life. I'll be pretty okay during the day, and around 4, I'm like, why am I here? What's the point? I might start crying, because I have bipolar, so my depression can get quite serious. And so what I noticed is that 4 to 6 time playing range is the most dangerous time for me. So step number 1, learn the time frame of your mood going down and write it down. So that's very, very important, okay? The next thing is what can we do to regulate melatonin and serotonin? I'm going to give you some advice, and then I have to give separate advice for people with bipolar disorder. So those of you here who have bipolar disorder, we're going to put that to the side for a minute, because what I'm telling about right now is only for people who don't have bipolar. You want to boost serotonin when you have seasonal affective disorder. The reason people with bipolar disorder can't do this is that serotonin is what makes us manic. And that's why people with bipolar disorder can't take Prozac, we can't take a lot of supplements that increase serotonin because it will make us manic. But anybody here who does not have bipolar disorder, here's what you want to do. You want to deal with your serotonin in a way that it stays productive throughout the day. So step number one, of course, is the easiest thing to do is to get light in your eyes in the morning. So the first thing you're going to do is, how do I wake up my serotonin when this melatonin is hitting me so hard? Start in the morning with this. And that means direct light into the eyes. That's why tanning booths do not work. Tanning booths used to be said, I remember in the 80s, you've got depression, go to tanning booths. Nope, because you cover your eyes. And of course, you cannot go to a tanning booth and look directly into it. That's dangerous. But what you need to do is have sunlight or full spectrum light, which we'll talk about light boxes, hit your retinas. It goes in the retina and hits your hypothalamus, which is your mood center. So there's a difference between sunlight on the skin, which is vitamin D, versus light in the eyes producing serotonin. And that's why tanning booths don't work, but light boxes do. So anyone going into darkness in the winter needs to have a light box in the morning. They are so easy to get now. You can get full spectrum ones that are alarms that wake you up so that as your alarm starts, it goes, it's amazing. It lights your room like a sunrise. So as you're waking up, it starts right before your alarm is supposed to go off. It gives you a spectrum of light and you wake up in the sunlight. But you need to get it in your eyes. So the regulation, or what people say, is you can use small ones, but you have to look at it. So sitting in front of it and reading doesn't work. You have to look at it. So read the directions. 20 minutes in the eyes, that's step number one. People with bipolar disorder usually cannot do this because it will increase mania. And that's what's so hard with bipolar. Most depression treatments for us cause mania. And that's why it's such a hard illness to treat. So that's step number one. Step number two, what can you do in terms of boosting serotonin with supplements? There's a supplement called 5-HTP. And 5-HTP is a natural supplement. Talk to your healthcare professional. Remember, I am not a doctor, so we're only talking about things that might help. You need to talk to a healthcare professional. 5-HTP is literally pure serotonin boosting. And so it's a supplement you can take if you don't want to use antidepressants such as Prozac or Zoloft, and you can use it naturally. Once again, unfortunately, people with bipolar can't. It will make us manic out of our minds. But 5-HTP is something to think about. Now, what about vitamin D? Most people in areas that have seasonal affective disorder have low vitamin D. Get your vitamin D checked. So we're talking now about the actual body things that you can do to deal with seasonal affective disorder. The latest news is 8,000 units of vitamin D per day for people with depression. It was 4,000 for a long time. So now in the mental health world, 8,000. Very easy to get because you can use drops, etc. So get your vitamin D tested the next time you go to your healthcare professional, measure it, and then start taking vitamin D. For women, get your iron uptake going. Iron and anemia also can lead to tiredness, which can further exacerbate the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder. So you want to get some iron food, kale, everybody's favorite food, and iron supplements are another thing that you can do. Now, what about taking melatonin? Melatonin, so if you have a sleep problem, it makes sense that if you have seasonal affective disorder, you're not going to want to be taking melatonin for sleep. So be careful with that. You actually want, your melatonin is in overdrive in seasonal affective disorder. So taking melatonin for sleep is not a great idea. Someone like myself with bipolar, who I don't sleep very well, even if I have seasonal affective disorder, I still take melatonin because otherwise I won't sleep at all and I'll get manic. So it's very complicated. So the first thing is look at the natural body ways that you can manage seasonal affective disorder. And that is get your vitamin D checked and look at supplements that can help. Another supplement that I'm really big on are the adrenal supplements, adrenal health supplements that have activating herbs in them. A lot of them are based off of the Ayurvedic type of herb. So adrenal supplements, I think, also work very well for people who don't have bipolar disorder because you know that they can get manic. St. John's wort is another one. St. John wort is a natural thing that you can use to help the mood. Another is a homeopathic homeopathic, I use it by tincture, called Stibium, and that's Stibium. That is safe for people with bipolar disorder as well, and that's a mood booster that's more natural, and a homeopathic naturopath will be able to talk to you about that. Now let's go into the other basic thing, which is diet. The biggest problem I have with my bipolar disorder because of medications and all this stuff is weight gain. And it's something that I've had to deal with for a very, very long time. And finally, I made the really big decision 4 months ago. I stopped white sugar. Now, white sugar is interesting. Some people can handle it with no problem at all. But for other people, white sugar is a treatment for depression, and that's what I was using it for. So believe it or not, when I stopped white sugar, I felt worse. So don't think that white sugar is not doing something for you. I am not advocating to use white sugar, but the thing is that you're using it for a reason, right? A Coke truly helps at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A mocha helps. But because we know that you will then crash, it's not actually an effective treatment in the afternoon for seasonal affective disorder. So what do we replace it with in our diet? So think about that. You guys know about diet. We're here at a place that's about natural health, okay? When I stopped sugar, I noticed my anxiety went higher, I got tired. I was up to about 5 or 6 Cokes a day because I deal with so many symptoms and I deal with a lot of stuff. And I was using that to boost my mood and it tasted good, to be honest. And you have to, when you give up something in order to feel better, replace it with something. So if you have seasonal affective disorder and someone tells you, well, just don't have caffeine at 4, don't eat a donut, don't have a candy bar, they're not being very realistic because what you're doing is working. It's getting you through the day, right? So if someone says, don't do that, you then can say, okay, that's not working for me because it doesn't help me long term, but it helps me short term. What can I replace it with? So one thing is spicy food. Spicy food has endorphins. It is one of the most stimulating things that you can use. Chili peppers are wonderful mood boosters. So have a spicy lunch. It makes an enormous difference. Now you have to be careful though, because a lot of spicy food is filled with sugar, like Thai food. So if you go more Korean or Mexican and really pile on the chili peppers, you might be surprised at how much it can lift the mood. Another thing is, of course, is protein. We know that protein digests in the body so differently than a candy bar. So have a protein bar. It's going to taste like candy. It might have some natural sugars in it, but replace what you're doing with something that works. Don't just remove it. Because when I did that, I really had sort of an explosion of symptoms. And I found myself going to bread and cheese. Because what you do in the afternoon, you're doing it for a reason. Be kind to yourself. If you're tired and worn out between 4 and 6 because of seasonal affective disorder, remove what's not working and replace it with something. So think about chili peppers. Think about having something spicy. Another thing is cinnamon. Cinnamon is a very interesting taste, and it has a lot of, people now are talking about inflammation benefits, etc., but it tastes good. It has a boost to it. So if you can get something with chilies and cinnamon in it in the afternoon, you're doing a great job. So look for something like that. And then, of course, throughout the day, the more that you can prepare for that afternoon slump, the better off you are. So we've talked about supplements. Take your supplements and write down when they're helping you. If they're keeping you awake at night, for example, then you're taking them too close to trying to sleep. But use them throughout the day. So maybe taking supplements around 3 p.m. is a better idea than taking them in the morning. Because so many people are used to taking things in the morning, but we're trying to deal with a melatonin, a big thing of melatonin. Also, another thing that the researchers found in their circadian rhythm work is cortisol. Now, cortisol and seasonal affective disorder are definitely related, but cortisol it's very complicated. We know with depression that cortisol rises. So guess what the latest medications are that drug companies are working on?
Suppressing.
Cortisol blockers. So I know, it's like, can we get some natural stuff? Why are we not working on learning about this naturally? So start reading about and learning about cortisol. So the hormones and the things you look at that you want to do and work on and replace with supplements or regulate with supplements and with diet are melatonin, serotonin, and cortisol. That's what you need to do. I like to keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. That's the way to do it. Now, after I talk on seasonal affective disorder, Tara and Esther are going to today talk to you about exercise and how the machines here at Body Quirks can help. Now, the reason these machines work is that studies have shown they boost serotonin. And we know that that's exactly the treatment for seasonal affective disorder. So one of the reasons that exercise works so well for seasonal affective disorder is that it boosts serotonin. That's why exercising late at night doesn't work for a lot of people, because they would be too jacked up to go to sleep. So exercise. What are the recommendations for exercise for seasonal affective disorder? The number one recommendation is to exercise during your slump. Without question. If you know that you're between the 3 and 6, for example, or 4 and 6, exercise then. So that means if you work 9 to 5, you go straight to exercise after work. And most people are like, I'm too tired, I can't do it. No, that is the time to do it. And I have some friends where workplaces are changing a lot. They are able to do 30 minutes of yoga on their at their workplace. So some people take a 30-minute lunch with a 30-minute thing of yoga. So look at your workplace and start thinking, what can I do? What can I do to get that exercise in during the day? Now, Dr. Andrew Weil, in his book, 8 Weeks to Optimum Health, many years ago, was one of the first to talk about the fact that when you exercise, the movement of opposite arms and legs boosts serotonin. So when you're walking, it's this movement that makes a difference, not this. So you think serotonin, 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 because it's really boosting your brain, okay? And that's one thing that's very important, is the movement, left and right side of the body, of how that's going. I love this part of the topic, but you can research more about this. But as you can see, that's just a couple things that you can do to change your hormonal balance and change the way your body's working before you even move to the other life changes that you can make, okay? Now, we talked about light boxes, talked about vitamin D and supplements. The next thing is, and this is where I come in, when I realized that medications were not going to work for me, considering that I haven't even given the whole list. I have bipolar disorder, which is a mood disorder that affects a person's ability to regulate their moods. In other words, something happens, and the real me, the Julie, will go, that's not a big idea. But my brain goes, wah, and makes me sick. So that's why it's a triggered illness for those of us who have bipolar disorder. So we have to modify our environment enormously. I also have a psychotic disorder, and I have what I call anxious psychosis. And that means if I'm in large crowds or in malls or in shopping centers, I tend to get paranoid and hear voices, because noise makes me psychotic. Traveling makes me psychotic. Many things make me psychotic. And psychosis is a break with reality that involves hallucinations and delusions. So I have to be very careful with that. I also have an anxiety disorder. And seasonal affective disorder is not necessarily anxiety. But if seasonal affective disorder turns into depression, most depression comes with anxiety. And anxiety is the worry. Anxiety is the repetition of thoughts in your head that you can't do anything about. Anxiety can be extremely physical, no question about it, but it always comes with this: I can't get out of here. I'm going to be in this darkness forever. This is horrible. Portland's the worst place I've ever lived in my life. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I can't see in front of me. That's the cascading of thoughts that happen when seasonal affective disorder takes over. So even though it is about melatonin, serotonin, etc., it also is very much about anxiety. So my tip for this, which truly changed my life, is to write down what you think, say, and do during these times. Because if seasonal affective disorder is making you irritable, people are not going to want to be around you. You don't even want to be around yourself. So look for complaining. One of the main symptoms I see with seasonal affective disorder is starting to complain. Why is it so dark? Why am I so tired? I'm hungry. I don't know what I want to do. I'm unhappy. I don't want to go. It's not fun. And you'll find yourself isolating, taking baths, getting into your room, getting under your covers, and not living life. It makes you turn inward. So when working with seasonal affective disorder, you must open yourself up to the world, open yourself up to dealing with what's happening. And I have found the only way to do that is to write it down in the moment. Because your brain, especially if seasonal affective disorder turns into depression, starts to lie to you. And I remember when my SAD was extremely bad, it would sound like this. What's the point? It's so dark. Why even leave the house? I don't want to do anything. And I'd eat ice cream, and I wouldn't want to answer the phone, and it would just close in on me. And before I know it, it's turned into depression. So write down what you think, say, and do starting around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And see if it affects your work. Is it affecting your children? Is it affecting your relationship? Does it make you not want to have sex? Does it make you not want to be touched? Does it make you want to eat a lot more? Or there are always going to be people who have the opposite, not eating. So it's change in appetite. For me, it is overeating. For other people, it's different. Write it down. It makes that much difference. One of the ways that I deal with all the mental illness that I have is that I have a list of my symptoms. So if I hear in my brain, I just want to get in bed, I know, oh, something's not right. I don't go get in bed. I used to. I spent years in bed. Before I knew how to manage my illness, I spent so much time in bed. I have pictures of myself crying in bed. I don't get in bed anymore. Beds are for sleeping. So another thing is you don't take a nap in the afternoon with seasonal affective disorder. You don't get in bed. You do something active. Now, once you have a list of what you think, say, and do, and you're looking at it, the next thing is, what do you do with it? Well, what you do is next to that is you counter it with either a thought, which of course is cognitive behavioral therapy, or an action. So let's say that I know for a fact that from 4 to 6 in Portland, Oregon, I'm going to be sick in the afternoons and I'm going to be depressed. That means that every single day of the week, I must have plans between 4 and 6. I work for myself. I don't work for a company, so I'm often alone. I cannot be alone in a dark room at from 4 to 6 in the afternoon. That's why happy hour is such a great thing for people with seasonal affective disorder. Now, if you drink, it's probably not the best thing. A little bit of drink's not going to hurt you, but drinking is not a great idea. But being with people, hearing noise, and doing things at those times. Happy hour explodes in the winter in Portland. I don't know if you've noticed that. You can hardly get into places because in the summer, people are out hiking and walking, doing things at that time. In the winter, we start to hole up and go inside. In some ways that it's good, but in other ways it's not so great. And also, nothing says you can't walk in the rain. So from 4 to 6, if that's your time that you're not doing well, put on rain gear and take a walk because it really, really does work. So you've got your what you think, say, and do list. The next thing is that with seasonal affective disorder and with depression in general, motivation is not going to arrive first. Motivation is a myth when you're not feeling well. When you're feeling down and worn out, the last thing in the world you have is, I think I'll get up and take a walk. It's not how it works. You have to override what you're feeling in the moment and focus on how you will feel after. And that's my book, Get It Done When You're Depressed. The whole premise of this book is that I spent so many years not getting anything done because I was waiting to feel better to get things done. So let's say a talk like we're doing today, I could be depressed out of my mind. I will be here at this talk. You will never know that I'm depressed because I taught myself that you can do things, you can work, you can get out when you're depressed. You're just not going to want to at the beginning. Depression lies to you. You need to go inside, it's too dark, have a cup of coffee, you'll feel better. Don't listen to it. Instead, you say, no, I know what makes me feel better. So the next piece of advice I have is you start making a list of what to do in order to counteract seasonal affective disorder. And so that list, we already have supplements, diet, exercise, but sometimes that's like, oh gosh, do I have to do that again? So the thing is make time to see people during those hours when the darkness starts if you work by yourself. So entrepreneurs have an enormous problem with seasonal affective disorder. A lot of people who are already in jobs are not going to have the same issue because you are in an environment where you can see people. If you have a job where you are not seeing people at that time, make that your exercise time. That's when you come to a place like Body Quirks with a friend and you exercise and you get yourself going. So the first thing in Get It Done When You're Depressed is don't wait to want to do something before you do it. That's probably the best piece of advice I can give to anybody with a mental illness, is that you're not going to want to. So make a list of how you feel after you exercise, because sometimes you're not feeling well. Even tying your shoes feels like it's too much, and your mind will break things down. Oh, I have to get in my car. I have to go get on the machines. And that's what your mind will focus on, instead of, wow, I will feel 100% better if I go work out. So you've got to flip the way you think into after versus how you feel in the moment. That really changed my life, and I thought it really made a very big difference. I also found that going to a movie at that time is a good thing. Now that doesn't make sense if you think about darkness, except that if you go see a comedy or any kind of movie, first of all, the screen is very bright. It's very bright. So you are in darkness, but your eyes are seeing brightness. And that might be one reason why you feel better when you see a movie. Go see a movie. And if you can't do that on a work day, do it on a day that your day is off. And once again, plan ahead. So on my really rough days, they have 4 o'clock movies. And a 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock movie is a wonderful way to boost your mood. Most people don't think to do that at all. They usually think of going to a movie at night or in the morning, not at that 4 to 6. There's hardly anybody in the theater at that time, and it's a wonderful thing that you can do. Another thing is look at your office space. If you don't have windows in your office space, did you know that by law, if you can show you have depression, you can ask for a room with windows? It's very interesting. Most people do not use that because they're not that depressed, but people with very serious depression can say, I have to have an office with windows. And so that's part of disability, and that's something for someone who has really severe problems at work can do that. Otherwise, if you are in a windowless, so we're in a room today that's windowless, for example, you cannot stay in a room like this all day. You have to get out somehow, look out the window, or bring a light box to work. There's nothing that says you can't have a light box at your desk that you use for a few minutes at a time. There's nothing that says, they're about the size of what a little tiny black and white TV used to be. They're very, very small now. When they started, they were the size of an enormous fan. Now they're about the size of a book, which is astonishing. And they work just as well. Prop it up and look in the eyes, okay? The next thing is look at your environment. I love the way Bodyworks decorates. They have such a wonderful environment in here. Having a water element, having a light element, having flowers and thing around you. If you're a guy, you decide what works for you. You certainly don't have to do all of the things that women do. But make your space something bright and beautiful. The mere behavior of lighting candles when it gets dark is an enormous boost to the mood. They're bright, they make you focus on them, and they can get you out of that darkness. Have some candles, have some light. If your seasonal affective disorder is really serious, then you get full spectrum light bulbs and you put them everywhere. So fluorescent lights that we have in here are some of the worst things that you can have. They put off green light. Oh, excuse me, I see that Esther is shaking. They have done their homework, and these are full spectrum lights. Yes. That's fantastic. Yeah. Also shows how Bodyworks takes care of their clients so that they're full spectrum. A lot of the other fluorescent lights at work have a buzz to them, and they will put off green light. So let's talk about blue light for a minute. One of the reasons that people with bipolar disorder cannot use all of the screens that we have out now is that they put out a blue light. And the blue light that comes from television and screens hits the retina and affects serotonin. It causes anxiety in a lot of people. So people who have sleep problems and people who have issues with mania, etc., often have to do something about their screen time. Now, there's a guy named Dr. Jim Phelps who's out of Corvallis, a very well-known guy who helped pioneer the work of bipolar disorder in what he calls the soft bipolars. And that's the bipolars that, the bipolar that's not full-blown, that takes you to the hospital. And he said many years ago, people with bipolar should wear orange glasses while looking at blue screen lights. So there are a lot of things that are coming out of the effects of the screens. If you find that you have seasonal affective disorder and you're getting the kind that's sort of nervous and it's making you a little restless, because remember, depression, there's 2 types, tired depression and then there's agitated depression. So seasonal affective disorder absolutely can be something that causes agitation and irritation. Watch your use of the screens. You can get now things to put on top of them and look at them. I have to be very careful at night because I'll just lie there and literally put that screen in front of me and I'm like, what am I doing? It's just literally boosting serotonin in my head. And I don't want to do that. So think about blue light, think about your environment, think about what you want to do. Many people are going back to reading natural books. I think there's something that happens when you have a book in your hand in the low light or enough to read by, but that's something very relaxing. So start thinking of using real books again. The sale of ebooks have sort of evened out. I really wasn't quite sure what was going to happen, and ebooks have started to even out, and so you still are seeing the sale of natural books. So that's another interesting thing. Look at the people in your life. So here's something interesting. If you are better on the weekend, you don't have seasonal affective disorder. If you only have a slump at work from 4 to 6 and on the weekend, but think about it. So that means, actually I shouldn't say that. Sometimes I jump to conclusions. That means that your work environment combined with the darkness outside is creating your mood. Seasonal affective disorder, if it actually is completely related to the sky, which is what we're talking about, is going to be the same wherever you are. Happiness is not going to be a cure for it because seasonal affective disorder is not an emotional problem. It's a hormonal problem. So if you have that slump at 4, but on the weekend you're not having it at 4, then that's a work issue. And you need to be honest with yourself about that because it's the truth. It's a work issue. It doesn't mean that it's not real. It doesn't mean that it's not your mood. But if you perk up on vacation, now if you're going someplace sunny, that's different. But if you are in touch with who you are, your environment, your work, and the people around you, seasonal affective disorder is going to affect you no matter where you are. But if it changes depending on the people you're with and your work, it's a combination of your lifestyle and the weather. So what can happen is that maybe work, you can deal with it. It's not great, but you can handle it. But then the darkness comes and that tips you over into, I can't stand it here, okay? So there's 2 things that can happen. If you like your work and the darkness comes and you start disliking your work, that can just be seasonal affective disorder and it's affecting your mood. But if you don't like your work and it gets a lot worse when it's dark, that has to do with your workspace. So look around you and see what's happening. That's something that's very important. I can't believe I have to put glasses on every time I read. I'm like, ooh.
We're all the same.
I know, it's like, oh, come on. Another thing is talk with the people in your life. One of the big things that I teach in my books is that we cannot do this alone. So if my friends and family know that my rough time is from 4 to 6, that's the best time for them to call me. Now, to make myself answer the phone is sometimes hard, but tell people, if you want to take a walk with me, that's the time to do it. If you want to go to a movie with me, that's the time to do it. So start packing in the enjoyable events at that time. If you know if it's seasonal affective disorder and you have trouble at work, don't schedule a meeting at 4 o'clock. Think about when your energy is there, or if you love meetings, schedule the meeting at 4 o'clock. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense to do this. Are you a morning person or a night person? Learn about all of that kind of stuff and get that health going in your life. Someone like myself, I have to watch myself 24 hours a day because I can slip into a mood swing so quickly that if I'm not aware of what's happening, I have a lot of problems. Now I'll close with talking about when seasonal affective disorder turns into depression. There is a difference. Seasonal affective disorder is only going to be there when the weather matches the darkness, for example. So if you're finding yourself having the mood all of the time, even when it's sunny, even on the weekend, and maybe it's worse when it's dark, but it's all of the time, then you've moved into depression. So what are the signs of depression? There's 2 types of depression. I call them weepy and irritated. So weepy depression is this: I don't have any energy. I see no point in life. What's the point? Why am I here? I'm lonely. Nobody likes me. Nothing's enjoyable. Food doesn't taste good. I just want out. Why am I here? That's weepy kind, and you'll cry. I don't love you anymore, you'll say to your partner. I need to leave, all of that. Agitated is, who put that glass there? I've told you 50 times not to put that damn glass there. What is your problem? And the people around you are going, what just happened? What the heck is going on? She's not normally like that. And also you'll have a lot more road rage and a lot more problems. That's irritated depression. Within bipolar disorder, we have to talk about this a lot because there's so many problems with irritation and anger in bipolar disorder. So if you are finding yourself getting more moody all of the time, and it gets worse with the seasons, then you have a problem with depression and you need to get help. And believe it or not, everything that we talked about today works with depression. So anything that you do for seasonal affective disorder will work for depression. But please take it seriously. Don't let someone tell you, come on, it's just the weather, it can't possibly affect you that way. You know if it's affecting you. So if you're having signs of lethargy, changes in diet, changes in the mood, not wanting to get out, wanting to cocoon yourself, irritation, not wanting to be at your job, not enjoying life when it gets dark outside, it's real. So you can do the things that we've talked about today in order to boost the mood. So as a recap, look at the balance between melatonin and serotonin and do anything that you can to get that balance right. Sleep on a circadian rhythm pattern. That means going to bed and waking up at the same time. So I go to bed by 11 o'clock, and I'm a big karaoke person. I still am in bed by 11 or 11:30. My friends know it. I'm the one. They stay out till 2. I'm the one who leaves early because it keeps me stable. It's a bummer, but it keeps me stable. Look into supplements. If it gets serious and you can't, all of this is not enough, look into medications. Look into using a light box, exercise, diet. Think about the chili peppers, cinnamon, replacing the stuff that feels good in the moment with protein and the things that can make you last a little bit longer. Eat spicy food, for example. Talk with people about what you need. Get the light into your eyes. Look at windows at your office, etc. And most importantly, write down what you're thinking, saying, and doing during this time so you can counteract that and not take these symptoms out on someone else. Find something to do. Make a list of what you need to do between 4 and 6 if those are your times. If you find now that having this talk, you're saying, you know what? I'm a lot better on the weekend, then look at your life and decide, do I need to make a change in life? And the weather is just helping me move that along. That's something to think about. And I'll end with something that works extremely well for seasonal affective disorder. And it is a foot massage with essential oils. And the reason is that, we know a lot about, and Tara here, of course, who is a superb masseuse. So much of our feeling and our energy are in our feet. The Chinese especially believe this with reflexology. And so peppermint oil, when I used to have extremely severe depression, I lived on peppermint oil. Peppermint, you have to be a little careful because you can burn your skin. I was using it so much. But you get sea salt and you sit on your side of your bath. This is not about taking a bath because baths are too relaxing between 4 and 6. You'll find yourself being a little bit too tired. But what you can do is get essential oil and take the sea salt and rub your feet. And it's going to burn a little bit. But while you're doing that, think of lifting up, getting your shoulders back, making a decision to get out in the world no matter how you're feeling. And that's one of the best ways to go out into the world even when you're not feeling well. And if you put all of this together, you have a wonderful plan for managing seasonal affective disorder. Thank you.
Yes.
Great. So now I'd like to introduce Tara and Esther, and they're going to talk about the machines that are here at Body Quirks. And actually, I wanted to end with one story, because one of the reasons that I'm here, and one of the things I find so interesting about the machines, is when my depression was extremely severe, like the kind where I was not functioning at all and I could not work, especially before I was diagnosed, I drove for hours. And I drove and drove and drove and drove, and I never had a destination. I would just drive. And for a long time, I thought it was restlessness. And then I realized it was the vibration of the car. I often sit in cars when I'm sick, even now, The cars have a vibration that are, maybe it's like a womb, who knows what it is. They're going to talk about this in a minute. But we do know that vibration makes a difference with the mood. This is seen in some of the treatments for autism. It's definitely getting more in the forefront for the treatment of depression. So now, if I'm home and I'm not feeling well, I'll go sit in the parking, literally get in my car, turn it on and read a book. I know it's not good for the environment. I know it's not. I don't do it very long. But it's this movement that starts to make you feel better. It affects serotonin. Another thing is some people talk about this, you can get similar energy from being by a waterfall. So there are machines that put out ions, there are vibrations, there are ways to change the body and work with the body to work with depression. So welcome, Tara and Esther.
When we decided to have these talks, we decided to have them because we have been now, both Tara and I are massage therapists, and we started the studio a little over 3.5 years ago. And the results that we have seen in people are so much more than what we expected. We did our research, we tried all the different kinds of machines. We thought, it'll help people with balance, and it'll help people with this. And what we've seen has been so much more than we expected, but especially with moods. We have, I would say, 50% of our clients, or sometimes more, will come in and say, I am in a shitty mood. I'm just gonna go in the back room and shake it off. And by the time they leave, they're smiling, much better, gotta go, 10 minutes is all they need. And more, especially I'd say in the last month and a half or two, people will come in and say, I only have 10 minutes, but I have to do this. And they'll come in, do 10 minutes, and leave, and I'm so glad you guys are here, and keep going. I was just driving by, and I thought, oh my God, I should stop here, because they feel that much better. And so one of the ways in which, Julie's story about vibration in the car, the vibration that these machines produce was designed to stimulate every muscle in your body. So if every muscle in your body is doing microcontractures, what it's doing is it's pushing circulation through it, and it's bringing oxygen to it. When you are properly oxygenated, first of all, you can think better. Second of all, you're more awake because you're not sitting in lethargy going, oh my God, the day is never going to end. I'm still sitting here. So we have seen people who sit all day long come in here and be totally rejuvenated. It's like the day just started again and they're ready to go and do things. And so we wanted to share this with other people that don't come to our studio so that they understand the benefits of motivating yourself to go out for 5 minutes. And the beauty about these machines is because they stimulate so much, they help you to produce endorphins. And once you produce endorphins, which reduce pain and make you feel a little bit better, then you feel more motivated to do things because you're not going, oh my God, the world is ending and I just can't stand it. And so the less pain you're in and the less the less lethargic you feel, the more motivated you are to move. There was a young woman who came because her mother had just had a hip replacement and was not doing her physical therapy. And so she says, I'm going with you and I'm dragging your ass down there so that you get it done. And so she came up to me one day and she goes, I hate you, Esther. And I said, why? And she goes, I've never been a walker, but I feel so good after I leave here. I go for a walk every evening. And I said, oh, I feel so bad about that. So sorry for that. She says, no, it feels really good. And so, we've seen so many different things. Tara, I would like it if you told the story about your mom and how these machines affected her.
Yeah.
And with her mom, it wasn't about depression, but more about dementia.
Yeah, well, I think she was depressed because she had a brand new hip, and she couldn't rehab in a traditional way because she did have dementia. But her thing in life was dancing. I mean, she was just happy if she was dancing. So, and my sister was her caregiver for about 2 years at the time, and she came into the studio. We have a variance of machines, and we thought, oh, we'll get her on the gentle one that mimics walking. It's very gentle. Got her on, she didn't like it at all, it confused her, but we got her on one of the home units. It's a vertical energy, and it goes right through your body, and it's a little better for brain and actually energy bodies. There's a lot of people that are really sensitive to energies, and they feel their auric field clearing. And they don't talk about this a lot because there's not a lot of hard data because it's energy. But everybody knows it. They feel it. People that are in tune to energies, they feel it, they know it, they feel better. And I can see energies. And I used to do work in the room. It would take maybe an hour to clear someone's energy, sometimes 30 minutes an hour. Or I could get them on the machine. And it just did the job. It's amazing. And I got off the subject. So my mom, it helped on every level. She was walking by herself in 2 days, but mood. My sister said her mood is very different, and this was just a couple of times on the machine. And my sister they were at our house in the room, and I heard my mom say, "Now, Tammy," and my sister came out and she was just crying because she said she hasn't said my name in 2 years. She had been her caregiver for that long. So we know it stimulates, exercise is good for brain function and mood. It's just a no-brainer that it's good for, you feel better when you're fit and when you're exercised, when you're circulating, like Esther said.
Yeah. But for a lot of people, it's also a matter of fitness. Some people don't have the fitness to go to a gym for 2 hours. But if you come here, these machines are remarkable in that way because they've been designed to stimulate all of your muscles to contract. So even though you're not jumping up and down, you're not running around the block, you're not lifting weights, what you're doing is stimulating and toning all of your muscles continuously just by standing on the platform. Now, if you add anything to just standing, it takes it to the next level for you. But you don't have to be fit to come here. You could have been depressed for forever and not be able to move and not be able to do anything. And we work with people here from wherever they come. We have had people that were unable to stand on the machines at all. So we have chairs, and we put the chair in front of the machine, and we have them just put their feet on the machine and then put their hands on their knees so they can feel the vibration go up their arms and stimulate other parts of the body. And as they get stronger, then we make suggestions to move further along the line for each person. It's, the happy stories that we have shared with each other, some of her clients, that they were our massage clients and now they're clients here, and how it has changed their life is really, really remarkable. We're really excited to share this, and that's why we started these talks, and Julie was gracious enough to be our first speaker, just to share with people the kinds of ways in which you can naturally help your body. Let's stop taking pills. Let's stop, poisoning ourselves without looking at, like she said, maybe if your mood gets better on the weekend, it might not be sad. It might be your life. And, we think about things like full spectrum lights. We have water in this room. We have salt lamps in this room to ionize the room, because every room in here, to us, is a room where people come to get healthier. And so we try to provide them with all of the tools that we know work, that they don't have to even be aware of. Most people think that we have dry ice in this, and it's just a vibration machine that vibrates the water and separates it and makes it into vapor. So we have a humidifier in the room that is more than a humidifier. It's about treating every aspect of who we are, and not just going to the doctor and taking a pill.
Can you talk a little bit more about the different types of machines that you have? They're not all the same, right?
No, they're not. Thank you for bringing that up. Tara is the one that is really good about this, so why don't you talk about the machine?
Well, we have 2 different styles of machines. One that mimics walking. That's the one my mom didn't like. And people that have motion sickness might not like that one. And the linear ones, they mimic jumping, so they go up and down. We actually have a third category, and it's a sonic machine, and it's a sound wave. It's exceptional. It's a lot more expensive too, so that's kind of in a separate category. But the sonic machine is really good for people with autoimmune. The sonic machine, you stand on it. It's still a whole body vibration machine, but it's a sound wave. It's a softer wave, and there's a big subwoofer you're standing on, and there's a magnet under there too. But it's exceptional. It's like a very fine-tuned whole body vibration machine, because Every frequency affects a different part of your body. Now, all of our other machines, they're wonderful for toning, strengthening, circulating, bone density, but it's a different kind of wave. It's a mechanical wave, so they usually go up 5 hertz at a time. So in order to get it to affect different parts of your body, you might have to do a movement. And we have more gentle machines, and we get people on lower frequencies machines to start out with. How many different styles of machines? 7 different styles. So I think it's, as far as we know, in the nation, we have the most variety of machines. And we're kind of picky. They're all single motors, because you cannot sync a dual motor. Our research says it's not good for brain health. And we didn't like the way it felt, dual motor machines. So they're all very high quality. You get what you pay for. Everybody usually finds their little favorite machine. We have one machine that goes up to 17 Gs. That's G-force, and that's what the big boys play on. But it can get you there much quicker with bone density, and it's also really gentle to start on. So.
So is it used for rehab for professional athletes?
Yes.
Absolutely. That's actually the astronauts, the Russian cosmonauts first had this technology, and they were able to stay up in space longer because of it. Now they can use these devices up in space. Iron Curtain fell down. Our astronauts got the technology, and they've been using it. There's over 50 years of research on these, but they were so expensive. You know, the one in the category of the 17G, that ran about, I think it was $30,000 or something. So they've come down dramatically. And then after the astronauts had such success with it, the Russians started using it on their professional athletes. And that's when they were winning all the Olympic Games. And then, a lot of other countries, they've been using them forever. You know, we're just kind of catching on. But the platforms themselves have been around since the 80s, for sure. You know, the platforms which you can buy today.
And if people can't come into Body Quirks, do you also sell the machines? What is your...
Well, yes, we do. Thank you for asking. We do sell them. And what has helped people, if someone comes in, there's such a variety, we usually tell them to buy a 5-pack. And if they find a machine, you know, we'll go through all the machines with them and give them all our expertise. And after they try it for like 5 times, they can take that 5-pack, which is $60, they can take that off of the machine price. So it's really a no-brainer way to try them. And you know, we have our favorite machines. We sell 4 different styles of them that we think are really high quality. And we're not married to any machine, so we'll tell you the truth about how they feel to us. And every machine has a different quality to it. So I wouldn't get someone on, let's say, I wouldn't get everybody on the Power Vibe. Because it might not be for them. So you tell us your condition, we'll match you up with the machine, and then we always encourage you to try them. You own that body, you're living in it, but we'll give you all our expertise, and we'll kind of watch you so you don't overdo it, because they do a lot. You know, they say 10 minutes equals an hour of exercise, so we start you very slowly. Some people that haven't moved for a while, they might be really toxic, and these fire every muscle in your body at once, which moves your lymph, so it's very detoxing just standing on it. So we learned that the hard way in the 3.5 years we've been open, that some people went into a healing crisis when they did too much, because we don't know their whole story. They might not write it down or remember. So we've learned a lot in 3.5 years, and we haven't had anybody really have a bad experience in a long time.
So can you explain what people get when they come to Body Quirks then? So is it a membership, or do you pay by the day? What is it that you do?
So one of the things that we discovered when we opened the studio was that we were pioneers, and that very few people knew about it. They'd ask their doctors, and their doctors say, "What are you talking about?" You know. And so we wanted to design a space, you know, in the same way that we thought about the light, the color on the wall, is, you know, the different elements in every room. We also were trying to create a space where people felt comfortable exercising. We did not want a gym. We don't want people to come here in Lycra and compete with each other. We want people to come here and heal themselves and get better and better and better. And so we designed, so every time that you come here to use our machines, the first time is completely free. And we ask that people schedule an appointment with us for that first time so that we have the time to spend it with you. We can show you all the different machines. We can spend time understanding what your situation is so that we can match you with something that will not harm you. And the first session takes anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes, unless you have a ton of questions, and it can take longer than that. So we want to make sure that we have the time and the space to spend it with you. After that, there are many different options. You can pay per session, and every session is $15 for a session, and you can just drop in. The machines are available. If you don't know how to operate them, if you still feel unprepared, everybody that works here knows the machines really well and can help you with it. You can also buy a 5-pack. Now the 5-pack is slightly cheaper than buying them individually, or you can get 2 different kinds of memberships. The membership that includes it's an auto-renew membership. The contract is for 2 months, not for a year. Most gyms will make you sign a contract for a year. Oh, you know, if you buy it, it's your contract. It's only half of what the other one is, and then you can't break the contract. And we've done it. We've joined gyms and gone for 2 months and never gone back again. And then when you try to cancel it, they don't let you, and then you're pissed off, and you keep trying to go there, but the energy is really icky.
We donate.
We just decided, you know, make it a 2-month contract. If at the end of 2 months you don't feel like it's made any difference, you just tell us, cancel my contract, and we just cancel it, no questions asked. If you don't tell us to cancel, it will just continue to renew until you ask us to cancel it. Some people don't want to commit to 2 months, and so they can buy a membership for 1 month, but it's about 40% more expensive than the one that is the auto renew. Most people understand, you know, some people will go, we have some coupons in different venues, and they want to buy that, and then they use 10 sessions in 6 months, and they say, well, it didn't do much for me. Again, you know, if you come in and talk to us, one of the things about whole body vibration is you have to do it on a consistent basis. You have to do whole body vibration 2 to 3 times a week. 15 to 20 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week is not too big a commitment. If you have it at home, of course, you can do it at any time. But if you come in to see us, our biggest challenge is keeping people to 20 to 25 minutes because they feel so good, so they want to do it longer. We have some people that we've had to just say, you know, you can't do this. You can't be here for an hour and a half because you're trashing your body. And that's not what we're about. Oh, but it feels so good. Yeah, well, we want you to keep feeling good. So some people, you know, just want to come occasionally, so they'll just pay for the individual sessions. And we also have other things in our facility. We have a far infrared sauna, which is what naturopaths recommend for helping people with heavy metal detoxing. They're different from a regular sauna in that they penetrate deeper. So we have a package that we call the shake and bake. So people will come in and they will stand on the machines for 15 to 20 minutes, which really activates that lymph to get flowing, and it also has stimulated all of your cells and flushed toxins out. And now you get into the sauna, and for 45 minutes you flush out all that stuff that you've already gotten out of your tissues. And when you do shake and bake, actually, within 5 minutes of going into the sauna box, you start to sweat. Otherwise, it can take as long as 15 to 20 minutes to actually start sweating. So, you know, we were thinking about ways in which we can support people who are really looking for a better, healthy lifestyle for themselves. So, and both she and I are massage therapists. We're pretty good at what we do. Between the two of us, we have, 52 years of experience doing massage, so we kind of know what we're doing. We are old. But yeah, no, but we love what we do. I mean, the stuff that we've seen happen here is really, really rewarding for us.
I'll just mention the pulse electric magnetic field mat, PEMF mat, we have as well, and that's to you can look at any of this stuff on our site, but it helps to charge your cells up. It doesn't move or shake or get hot, but it's really quite extraordinary technology. They're using it in Germany and Switzerland, and it helps charge your cells up. Your cells do everything in your body, and if they're puny, they say if they're that much full, you got cancer, chronic disease, but you want them nice and full, and it makes them more permeable so they can talk to each other and to combat the EMFs and other things that are, clogging our body up.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
You
Thank
guys,
you.
any questions?
Any answers?
Any answers? Thank you, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.